Monday, can I throw this at you?
I'll support that.
Oh, yeah. Pick somebody up. There we go. Okay, going to call the July 24th agenda review meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. Feels like we were just here, because we were. Ms. Bowie, would you call the roll, please?
Good afternoon. Pete Wildebohr,
Present?
Pat Bradford,
I am here.
Josie Barnhart,
Here.
Stephanie Craybill, Melissa Mason,
Here.
Hugh McManus,
See.
and Stephanie Walker.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you all again for being here today. We will have our invocation. Today will be presented by Michael Mattis from the Salt Box Church remotely.
Hello, this is Michael Mattis, pastor of Saltbox Church, and I'm calling in to offer an opening prayer and invocation. So, Father, thank you for the New Hanover County School Board. Thank you for Pete Wildebohr. Thank you for Pat Bradford. Thank you for Josie Barnhart, Stephanie Craybill, Melissa Mason, Hugh McManus, and Stephanie Walker. Father, thanks for their willingness to serve. Thank you for their courage. Thank you for them even looking out for our kids, our teachers, our families here in New Hanover County. And I'm mindful with the string of violent shootings that have happened across the country that there's increased anxiety and fear and uncertainty and even disagreement. And Lord, I pray for your peace. I pray for your grace. I pray for strength and unity among the school board. I pray you give them wisdom as they make tough decisions and implement tough policies. And Father, I pray that you would protect our families. I pray you protect our schools, and I pray you protect our students. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. At this point, I would like to ask Board Member Melissa Mason to lead us in the pledge. Ms. Mason?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will move on to our next agenda item, which is the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? Second. We have a first and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 7-0. As in the past, we will start at the top and kind of work our way through. Again, please feel free, board members, to stop me at any time if you have any questions or want clarification, and I have asked Ms. Craybill to be our official timekeeper once again, so thank you, Ms. Craybill, for volunteering to do that, because I appreciate that. All right, starting again, we start with the call to order, roll call, second is approval of the agenda, that's 5 minutes, invocation, moment of reflection, national anthem. Who will be doing that? You know? Still working on that? Okay, very good. Pledge of Allegiance. Would anyone like to do that?
I'll do it.
All right, Ms. Barnhart will be doing that this time. Thank you. The recognitions and introductions, about 10 minutes. Dr. Barnes, we have about 10 minutes worth? Okay, so we'll cut that back to 5 minutes. Superintendent's report. Okay, about 5 minutes. We'll also take about 5 minutes. Call to audience will be the usual 60 minutes. Closed session. We will have a closed session. Board members, do we want to do a closed session there, or would we rather do it at the end?
The end.
Anybody?
How long do you anticipate it? Like, do we know what we're talking about? I mean, I know what I read there, but is it going to take us a while?
Next Tuesday's closed session.
Well, yeah, I think we do have,
Well, it depends what you want me to.
we'll be sharing with the superintendent at that one too, so probably we'll take the whole hour.
Can we do it at the end?
Yes, ma'am?
I think out of respect for everyone else's time, to do at the end would be better.
Okay. Is there anyone that would rather not do it at the end?
I don't mind as long as our meeting is not like 5 hours.
Okay, well, we
I'd
hope
rather
to.
do it earlier.
Yeah.
I disagree. I don't want 4 hours.
Do I hear three? Three.
2.5.
All right. All right, so we'll put that closed session, we'll leave it in there as a placeholder, but we will look to use our time at the end instead. Information, we have consensus items there, 5 minutes. I'm going to go through each one of those, and that,
Am I correct in that where there was no information?
I see nothing under there. Yeah, no, that's correct.
Ashley, do you have something?
There's
Nothing under information.
topic of information.
Mr. Chair.
So, Carrie, yes,
I
ma'am?
have a
Ms.
question,
Walker?
because the information, there's nothing there, but then there's agenda items later. Am I to believe those are actionable?
They should be, yes.
Advanced placement classes? That's going to be an action item?
It's under new business, so yes.
Okay. I'll wait till we get there to discuss it.
Okay. All right, so 5 minutes consensus, but again, we're going to go through each one now. If you have a question, please stop. Yes, ma'am?
It says here that it's for discussion only, so shouldn't it be under information?
We could do that. Ms. Barnhart, you would want
Unless
to
we
put that
plan
up.
on having a motion on something, then I think it makes more sense to have it under information.
That's, Ms. Barnhart,
I'm comfortable where it is on the agenda.
where it
Are you
is?
planning to ask for a vote on something?
Yes.
Okay.
Then we need to put it in there on that we're gonna vote, that there could be action.
Right, well, I think, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I think putting the subject matter under new business allows an opportunity for any board member to make a motion. You don't have to specifically say what the motion is going to be on the agenda, as long as you have the agenda item, the subject matter.
And, Mr. Wood,
Yes, sir.
I
Ma'am.
understand that perfectly well, but what I'm trying to get at is, if we are going to be, if you think we're voting on something, then you need to tell us so that we can do our research and we can be prepared, and that not just you perhaps come with information, but the rest of us can come with an understanding of what we could be voting on. I'm not asking for the motion, but, and it is, the public has the right to know if there's going to be an actionable item. And if we know straight up there's going to be one, why don't we type it in? That's my question.
Okay. Ms. Barnhart, would
agree.
you like to respond?
I mean, I can respond with the discussion and the concern.
Okay.
This came through the process of the appeal with the AP course, and a lot of questions became, the first being, do we require our AP and our IB students to take their exams so that that's how they get college credit? The answer is no. I find that concerning and alarming because we're paying our staff, and the idea for the students to be getting college credit, and that is the whole buy-in of the program. So I wanted a discussion and potentially a motion to require that for our students. The second being, are there people in our district staff that are certified in our AP and IB standards? I mean, if you want to address that, but
Well,
Dr. Payson.
We'll discuss it on
And
Tuesday.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how to
Okay.
go through, but I mean, just hearing
Okay.
some of these things and line of questioning of developing curriculum content and supporting our staff and our students, because oftentimes we have an AP teacher who's the sole teacher at a high school or at a facility. And so if we are not supported, and then looking at the scores, and let me say, how do I say this? We can do better for our students.
Okay.
Our high-achieving students, to not overlook them and make sure that they are being challenged and offered opportunities to get the college credit that they are fully capable of. I think we need to have an open discussion about
Okay.
that.
Very good. Yes, sir.
I mean, to address that, I don't know if everybody's familiar with the process of AP. Part of the reason everybody doesn't take it is they couldn't afford it at one time. It changes with leadership and or board. But
Funding.
they were paid for it. I don't know if that's still true. That answers the question. So that's not a reason not to take it.
We pay for it?
So,
The state does.
so it is payable, that's not an excuse.
Okay.
But I can solve that question because that's the way you brought it up. Do we have anyone teaching AP or IB that's not certified?
I think she's talking about at the district level, who oversees the programs.
Yeah. Okay, but that's a fair question because
So everyone
Yeah.
who teaches the class has to be AP certified, so they go and
Okay.
get their certification, yes.
so they at least know what they're doing.
Okay. Well, we will carry that on next week. but
So
we'll
can
get
I
back-
ask how much time I should allot in my calculation?
Well, when we get down to it, yeah, because we're way up here still. Let's go through the consensus items, and we'll get down to it when we get there. Right away and permanent utility easement for Gordon Road widening. Anybody have any questions about that? Yes, ma'am?
Sure, thank you. I looked at it online. I know they're going to widen Gordon Road, which for me in the Ogden area is really, really appreciated. And as a former Eaton parent, I would love to hear what the plans were to expand, because I know when we used to pull up and people were trailed out onto Gordon Road. So you guys plan on expanding the parking area for pickup?
That is the goal with the compensation that DAT is paying for the right-of-ways and easements. We'd like to put that in a capital budget to use that for expanding parking and queuing for parent pickup and drop-off. I don't know at this point, what that may or may not look like, but at least we will have the funding to start evaluating that.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions on that one? Thank you. Contract with Zoom, NC Educational Lottery application, consideration of change order number 1 for the International School of Gregory security upgrades. We have questions on that? No? Good. CTEC SCIF grant additions and renovations contract for construction. I'm just going to keep reading unless somebody wants to stop, and I'll be looking down, so if just, you can raise your hand or call out. Contract with Child Development Center for developmental daycare preschool services, budget amendments. Well, wow, you guys are very agreeable today. I like that.
Mr. Chair, I'll go back.
Yes.
I can't remember if it was the Gregory or the CTEC, but I looked at the contractor, and it's like 3 little letters, IL whatever, Mr. Anderson, and I looked to see who that was, and they are a local company, which was nice. And I checked into the community to see if they had a good reputation, and they do. Have they built any, or have they done any other work for this?
They have. They completed one of the previous phases of renovation at CTEC, actually.
Okay.
And did a really good job. That's UHL.
Yeah, how do you pronounce that? Never
Oh.
mind, it's okay.
Greg Yule.
Yule.
That's his name.
Great, great.
Thank
And
you.
his Rotary is the one that donated all the materials for the Riceville Beach Pier.
Nice.
He's been involved in the school system for a long time,
Awesome.
and he's part of the Home Builders Association and the CTEC, or the CTE Business Advisory Council.
Okay. Carrying on, memo of understanding with contract with Coastal Horizon for day treatment. We're all good. All right, 23-24, excuse me, Head Start Self-Assessment Improvement Plan, renewal contract with CRA at Mosley and Research Triangle Institute, the 23-24 North Carolina Title I application, memo of understanding between the University of North Carolina at Wilmington and New Hanover County Board of Education for the Marine Science Academy at Ashley High School, new business, MOU with NC Ed Corp for pilot math tutoring program.
5 minutes.
5 minutes? So 5 minutes.
Can you give us a little
Sure.
precursor, please?
This is the math pilot program that we actually talked about in one of our meetings prior, that our wonderful superintendent actually talked about and solicited some funding for us. This is the 4th grade, so this program would be for Freeman and Forest Hill 4th graders, all the 4th graders. This would be a tutoring program that will allow all of the 4th graders, regardless of whether they are on grade level or behind, to actually receive some additional support to take them even further in their own growth. So I just want to bring you guys, I'll give a more overview when the public can really hear about it, because it's a great program, and we are actually going to need them to volunteer, well, not volunteer, to be interested, because we will be soliciting, hopefully, retired teachers and other community members to come in and work with these 2 schools on this tutoring program. So I just want to give you guys an overview of that and give you a clear picture of exactly that would look like.
Awesome. Any questions from the board?
So, when I was reading it, it said that we would be considered an employee,
Yes.
the tutors, so that board members aren't eligible to participate in that tutoring program?
I don't
Because-
think so.
okay.
Because of the
Because we have to be
policy.
paid. Okay, that's what I was
Yes,
just-
it's-
What will happen is they will be treated as employees. We have a person who will oversee the tutors. They bring them in, they will train them on specific, so it's you can't run rogue, and there are specific standards that you have to teach. You can't teach ahead of the teacher. You have to always, they're going to be doing assessments, and you're teaching to fill in the gaps, and the teacher will continue teaching their lessons, but they will always stay behind. But it is work for students. But, you know,
How about substitute teachers? Are they allowed to apply for these jobs since they're already employed?
anyone who wants to work as a tutor can tutor.
And there'll be a pay range, and I'll get into more detail. I kind of felt like last time I said too much, so I was trying to be very brief, but so I'm still
I'll
trying to
ask those
find my
questions.
balance for the agenda review. So, but
You have
yes,
to like math. You have to be able to do math.
yeah.
Is this some of the monies that we got from
So-
state?
This is in the state budget.
Yes.
Very good.
We're still
waiting for it to be
waiting for it to be approved. We may have to do another trip.
And I will say that
That's what we're doing tomorrow. I knew there was somewhere.
Roger.
we're being, they are actually, you know, Dr. Faust brought this to them, and now there are, I want to say 3 districts who will also be doing this along and following in our footsteps, of course, because we're in Hanover County Schools. So they will be also doing this program. And there's some other pieces, but like I said, I'm still trying to find that balance of how much I give here, how much I give there, so I can answer any questions.
So, and is there any indication this is just a 1-year thing, or have we got, I can't remember if they said something about it could be for X number of years.
It was 2,
Is it 2 years?
I believe.
Well, I don't know if,
Are we waiting on the data to see?
yeah, and because this program is going to be heavily data-driven as far as on those individual students, because we're actually going to use or support a curriculum called Bridges, which some of our schools already use, and the teachers are probably very familiar with it that are listening out there. Very good curriculum for intervention is what we've been using it for. And we actually have an app where the tutors will be keeping up with the attendance, the data, and like Dr. Faust said, we have someone at the district level who will be coordinating this for us and making sure that this is giving students what they need to fill in the areas that they need, or take them even further, because this is not a program that we're targeting particular students at those schools. We're looking at all of the 4th graders, and that's what really makes it exciting, because we can actually take some of our students to a higher level that are on grade level, have them dig deeper, those students who really need to be challenged. I'm sorry.
I'm going to put it between us.
So for clarity, I'm assuming this came from, when I led the legislative committee meeting, and I asked you guys, what would it look like so that we don't have any priority schools? And so you guys had developed a plan, but this organization already existed. We just didn't realize that it had existed as far as payment for tutoring. So it didn't come out of our budget, but this is a grant that's going to allow us to fulfill that vision. That's what I'm
Yes.
gathering from the conversation.
And
Okay.
this organization, the one thing that we are bringing to this organization is the aspect of math, because they have been working with reading. So with our new curriculum being adopted, you know, we always think about our teachers, so we did not want to put that in the reading camp with our teachers adjusting to this curriculum. So with the math research and looking at 4th grade is the ideal place to do this.
Ms. Bradford?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a pilot.
Yes.
But it's also already got 3 other districts down underneath it, so it could go statewide if it
Right.
succeeds.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's funny is, if you give me the microphone, you know, I'll
Yeah.
take the lead. So it was only for reading, and so when I was in the conversations, and then I met with Senator Lee, and he was like, hey, don't forget about EdCourt. And so I was like, okay, I forgot. So I called them, and Dr. Faison and I got on a call with them, and I was explaining what I wanted to do and how I needed them to find the people to do it. And like, oh, we do reading. I said, well, I need you to do math. And so I explained everything to them and how we wanted. So they went back and they talked with their people, and they got some more people on the line. We explained it, and they went back. And so then we held firm to our ground. We held our ground, and they said, okay, this is what we want to do. We'll let you pilot this. And then as Dr. Faison said, I think it was early last week when they were saying that they already have 2 or 3 other
Yeah, they have
districts,
like, yeah.
3 other districts that want to do math. The reason why we're doing math, or what I believe you'll get quicker growth in math. Reading, I would not necessarily hire individuals in reading, and I'll let me be real specific with that with tutors. There's, we've done letters in the science of reading, so they have to come back in, they would have to go through that to make sure that that process is done. Math, the uniqueness about math is that there's a definitive answer. With reading, you can definitely, there is a definitive answer. However, it could be a maybe. The authors, there could be a feeling that also goes in. So there are different things that the teacher would have to teach. And so in an effort to do that, and I do not want to discount reading tutoring. It's not what I'm saying. But what we've found is that we get a quicker bang for our buck when we're looking at doing turnaround work and getting kids on grade level. You can do it quicker with math.
Great. And actually,
Bravo, you guys.
can I make
Bravo.
a quick suggestion? Can we, instead of kind of, not that you would rush through it, but can we maybe say 10 minutes so that you
Sure,
can?
sure.
'Cause, you know, when we have something good to say, which I think is very good.
Yes.
I think it's. we
And
don't
I
wanna rush through it.
actually, I hope everybody's listening, I actually hope that we actually gain some interest, because we really want to target some of our retired teachers. We've got some wonderful people out there, retired teachers, administrators, whoever want to come in, because this organization will actually do the training for them. And if you have not really worked with students before too, and you're interested, you also will get some training on that and how to work with them. So, yes, 10 minutes is perfect, so I can sell this wonderful program, and hopefully we'll have people very interested in supporting our students.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
And I do love reading. My minor is in English. I just want you to say that. I have
Just
a
in
minor in
You do have to
secondary.
read the math problem.
I
don't you?
do. My minor is in English. I've done the praxis. I can do English.
Can I quote you on that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, the matter
Yes.
would be under new business, so there'd be a vote for approval? Okay.
So we put it there because I will be asking for approval of the MOU that yes.
Okay, thank you. Good question. Thank you.
And Dr. Faison, we're going to talk about, the ad hoc committee's not ready to do a report, but we're going to talk about that and explain where that boundary is for talking in this meeting versus that meeting. We're going to get to
Okay.
that. It's on the agenda.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, so next we get to the next question, which is the advanced placement classes discussion. Ms. Barnhart, how long do you think that would take? About 20 minutes, you think?
Sure.
Okay, we'll put it down for 20 minutes.
Mr. Chairman?
Ma'am?
Is there a way that we can, if it's going to be 20 minutes, we can take that 20 minutes and divide it up and say, each person gets this many, because one person could talk for 20 minutes in 2 sessions of allowances. So is there any way, if we allow 20 minutes for something, can we somehow time that 20 minutes and we only actually allow 20 minutes for it? Do you see what I'm saying? Am I making any sense?
It does. I think we're pretty good on our time right now, so I think we should have a good discussion about it. But what do other board members think?
Well, right now,
Craybill?
that if we, that we are at 6:50 when we start the advanced placement discussion.
Okay. So
But I would like to voice opposition that we squelch any of us from being able to ask questions and talk about it. If you want to stop it at 20 minutes, then Robert's rules say we take a vote, do we want to continue? And if we don't want to continue, we don't. If we do want to continue, we do. One of the other Robert's rules that you have been pretty good about enforcing, because I am the person that it gets enforced on all the time, is that we agreed before that we would have 2 5-minute times to talk. So if that's what Ms. Bradford is talking about, then, or if we need to go back and revisit that, but we already do have a semblance of some of that in place. I'm just offering that to the group.
I wasn't aware that we had 2 5-minute.
that's what
That's
Robert
pretty cool.
says. Yes. Yes, ma'am?
I guess what I'm
Dr.
concerned,
Walker?
thank you, Mr. Chair. I think what I'm concerned about is I don't really know, I know we've had a brief discussion about what is going to be discussed and potentially voted on. This is my first time hearing it. I'm worried and concerned that we're going to be changing things I don't know that we should be changing. I'm up for the discussion on it, and I think it's always a good thing to do. I just don't want to be surprised with some kind of vote that I'm not prepared to discuss. So I would appreciate a better description on there, at least on the agenda for us and the public, so we can come prepared, if that's okay.
And
Ms.
then
Graybill?
for my second opportunity
You got
to
it.
talk, if we are voting on something that affects the upcoming school year, August the 1st is a terrible time to do that to teachers, because they're already planning their syllabuses and their coursework plans of action. They go back to school on August the 18th. So that doesn't give them much time to change. So if I'm just tossing that out, if we're going to vote on something that makes it applicable for school starting on August 26th, we're maybe a little bit behind the 8 ball.
So what I'm kind of gleaning from some of the conversation is the concern of implementation on teachers. My conversation with different staff when asking questions about our advanced placement classes was an acknowledgement, and that's why the intent of bringing it to you, sir, was that the district does not have equipped individuals that are specifically aligned for AP standards, for IB standards, that our students are not being required to take those tests. So I understand as far as a directive given, turnaround time 2 weeks. Here's the fear, and I'll just say it and I'm looking at my friend over there. The fear is that I'm going to say a syllabus. That's not the intent here. The intent here is to evaluate how we're doing things as a district, and if we want to give directives so that we have those people in place, potentially on our staff to support our teachers. But as far as the syllabus level driven stuff, that's not the intent of this conversation. The intent of this conversation was to reevaluate the district direction of specifically AP and IB courses.
Ms. Bradford?
In just what we've said today, it's made me think that I'd like to I'll throw this out. It just popped into my head now. In looking at preparing for this hearing, I've looked at the syllabuses from all the English composition classes, and I've noticed they're all different, completely different. The instructions to the students are completely different. And I will ask this question of staff. I know for example, the calendar, we just implemented some tweaking of time changes so that all the kids would be starting school at the same time. And so I wondered how come, if it's an AP class and it's the same subject, English composition, why is it all not a similar syllabus? And so that's a question I will put out there in this discussion, because it's, you have me study something and a flag comes up, I'm going to want to know the answer to it.
And
So-
again, we'll discuss that next week.
Okay.
And Ms. Walker? Or Dr. Walker?
Sorry. So like I say, I'm happy to have this discussion. If it's going to be productive, it's going to help our students. I mean, as a parent of a child that took a ton of AP classes, I can tell you she got 3 semesters worth of credit for it. She did take the exams. But, I think the fact that they are free, and I know we'll have this discussion later. I guess let me just stop that discussion. And I just don't want to have anything to do with this book. That's all. Because I know this isn't,
separate.
okay. I just want to make sure. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, we're going to carry on here. Now I'm looking at Ms. Craybill because we have old business, which is the board professional development training discussion, which we have started on 2 different occasions now.
So I was thinking 10 minutes. The intent of this conversation is not for us to necessarily agree with everything that's on the list, because we think that list should be fluid as we find out about new topics that we want to learn about. But I would like for us to make some effort to commit to taking some of the training. And if we want to do something like, my suggestion would be something almost once a quarter, that, so that we can plan it out, we have plenty of time, and then to look at maybe the order that we might want to take things in, so that we can give professional facilitators, a chance to check their schedules, and we can check our schedules, so we're not going, okay, who can come like next week. You know, we want to plan this out, and I want us to have just a conversation on what do we think we need most. And we don't have to do everybody doesn't have to do everything together. But if there are any that we want to do together, like some of the, darkness into light, or the mental health first aids, those kind of things, I think we'd be better off us doing as a group. But there's a lot of things we can take that we can do individually to make us better board members, or just to know. That's my intent.
Ms. Barnhart?
May I make a suggestion for us to consider a book study? And I know Dr. Faust in the leadership seminar, he gave a book to all of our administrators, and so I think that might be a good just topic, since that's something that he shared with all of our leaders, that we potentially do the same thing.
Good thought.
And so to that
Yes,
point,
ma'am.
I added one of those books on the list, The Energy Bus, is what they introduced last year, and all of the staffs had a chance to read it, incorporated it into the way they do business. For us to do that book study, I don't know, I'm just putting words in mouth, maybe they haven't even done a book study themselves. But, yeah, I'm not opposed to a book study either, but we still have to meet, we still have to read it and meet, so.
And talk about it, yeah, discuss it.
Um,
Bradford?
Without being critical, Mr. Chairman, we allowed 10 minutes for this last board meeting, and we went 30.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna-
Now we're going to allow 10 minutes for it again.
Yeah.
And so that's
was
going to be
gonna-
40 minutes total on something that was supposed to be 10 minutes. So I'm concerned. We have a lot of concern about how long these meetings go. I catch a lot of flack for it because it's one of my goals to shrink the size of our meetings. My attention span doesn't go 5, 6, 7 hours. And so I'm concerned when we have these open-ended opportunities.
Why don't we say, my suggestion would be, why don't we move it up like we did with the MOU before? Why don't we say 15 minutes, and we'll see where we are, because I think we're still sitting pretty well. Committee reports,
What did you just say?
15? Would you change it to 15, please?
Changing me to 15?
Yes,
I only
please.
said 10.
I know, but would you mind going to 15? That way there, I'd rather be done in less time than if we say 10, then we're cutting it off. You sure we're going to be done in
All
10?
right, we'll do 15, we got
Okay.
plenty of time, we're out.
Mr.
we're
Chair.
out early.
I know.
And did I hear you say you're changing something else?
No, I just want to get committee reports now.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am?
just had a question for that when you're
Okay,
ready.
please go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I just would like to know what Ms. Grable wants from us. I mean, I've got the list I've printed out, and if I just check the boxes and give them to her, or do I just keep this myself and,
No, that list was just for us to be talking about.
Oh.
And for our board clerk to have some way of checking off what we do. Because if we are taking classes that are outside of the NCSBA or the North Carolina School of Government, then if we want to get credit for that with the NCSBA, so that we get our 12 hours of credit every 2 years, then that is it's a tracking tool for Ms. Bowie to keep track of what we've been to. That's all the sheet is for. But if you have other things that you want to add, let's keep this as a working document, and we can put it on the website in the section that the communications department set up for documents, so that we can always go back to it and add to it. Or somebody went to the class and went, ooh, that's probably not what you want to do. That kind of
so,
thing.
Mr. Chair, can I follow up with Ms. Grable?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
why do we need 15 minutes?
I'm sorry?
And I'm not being rude when I say that. I'm like, why do we need more than 15 minutes? I mean, I feel like we got the list, and
Okay.
we
Well-
can, and I'm not complaining, I just
Yeah.
feel like we have spent a lot of time. I think this is probably the third time it's
Okay.
been on the agenda.
Let's put it-
And
I'm
I
fine with
appreciate Ms.
saying 10.
Grable's efforts, because I would like to take a number of these trainings, so I am happy to talk about that, but I just don't know.
Yeah,
when to talk
I just don't want it to be like we've had several times where we, as Mr. McMahon said the other day, we allot 10 minutes for it, we go 30 minutes. I'd rather
Right.
say if we go 15, we're done at 12, then everybody smiles. If we go 30, then
Okay.
I hear. Yes, yes, sir.
I really appreciate your quotations. I thank you so
Quote you all
much.
the time.
What I think we need, what I would suggest that we do,
Yes, sir.
is that you, obviously Ms. Craybill is interested in this arena, but that 1 or 2 or 3 board members sit down and make available all which will count toward our North Carolina School Board Association, our 12 hours, and then we can individually decide, maybe Walker and I'll go, no, maybe, in all sincerity, we pick, we go, we conclude, we all have different schedules. Oftentimes, we have meetings that all of us cannot attend, and they are valid reasons, particularly when it's a last minute, understandably. But I just think the best way to handle it is to put it all out there, and then we can decide what works for our calendar. Because I like to block things out as soon as I can, and we have a habit sometimes of having to change things because, understandably, we have a last-minute call, and it's important, and so that takes priority. But I just think that's the easiest, simplest, most rational way to do it.
So, Mr. McManus, they are listed. The only thing I didn't list out was all 19 offerings. I'm happy to go in and do that work and write it when we can all go, like Ms. Barnhart has said, we're all responsible for the NCSBI on our own.
But they
I'm
all
happy-
for credit, they all count.
Yeah, and I'm
Okay,
happy to
that's-
put them all in there.
I missed
That's
that
what this
part. Okay,
list
that's what my
was
whole point.
starting about.
Okay.
And my intention for the meeting, for us to discuss, if everybody could come with one or two things that they want to do, and then the discussion should be over. You know, let's just pick something, because I think I'm frustrated with us trying to make policy decisions and procedure changes on topics that we do not know enough about. And I think that some of us are educators, some of us are former educators, some of us have no education background whatsoever. So we need to understand what's happening in a school district. And so that's my whole intent with this, for us to educate ourselves where we think we need it. That's all.
All right, we will carry on. Thank you. We will give it 15 minutes and we'll see where we're at. Committee reports. Who has a committee report to share for next week? Yes, ma'am?
I have a half of one.
Half of one.
I will update you on where we are with the ad hoc committee
Ad hoc, so ad hoc,
to,
5 minutes?
yeah.
5
Yeah,
minutes?
And I'll let you know, just so you can be thinking about this, New Hanover County Commissioners have 4 meetings a month, 2 board meetings, 2 agenda briefing meetings. The City of Wilmington, same thing. The county has their agenda briefing meeting the morning of, and then their board meeting is that night. The city does it one day before. So that was absolutely new information to me. I didn't realize that they have more meetings than we do. And we have a bigger budget and we have more people. Just in case, in fact, the mayor of Wilmington asked me yesterday what was our budget and how many people worked in the school district. And I said 440 million, was I right?
With ESSER, yes.
With ESSER, okay. So a lot less without ESSER. And I said just under 4,000 employees, was I right?
Yes.
Okay.
You win the prize.
Thank you. And I have not had anyone that I spoke to that said, oh, you can do without it. I've got quotes, and I'll pass it out, but we haven't had a chance to meet as a committee, and I don't think that's fair to have a full committee report, because we could get somebody who tells us. But I'm reaching out to towns, councils, to the City of Wilmington, to the county, and I'm actually going to talk to the city manager and the county manager before I'm done. And then Mr. Manis is gathering and Ms. Mason's gathering. I think Mr. Manis has something he wants to share. Are you ready for share that yet?
As part of committee reports, do we
Yeah,
want?
it's this committee.
So do we need more than 5 minutes then? Okay, because we're not really supposed to talk about that here, are we?
Well, that's what this is for, to talk about things. Oh, yes, that is August 16th? Okay, so moving on, no.
So we have a curriculum
We're still under ad hoc. Did you want to share that? Because this.
Well, if you want me to, it's brief. I called Bill Rivenbark. He used to be on the board, so he certainly has that experience. He's now chairman of the county commissioners. And I said, I know that we have obviously more of an agenda than the county commissioners, but can you explain to me how you keep everyone from talking so much, and you also have such short meetings? And I will repeat, and I asked permission if I could say this. Oh, here we go. Don't get me, Bill. He said, first, you need some duct tape. He said, second, we meet, we keep our agenda, because we don't want to be there more than an hour. And he said, and then the night before, Mr. Wildeboer, as chair, he says, I call everybody and say, if you got any questions since we met, let me have them now.
I'll do it now.
And so I thought that was actually pretty good.
Not a bad idea.
And the county has all of their, Dr. Barnes, they have all of their introductions and awards at their agenda briefing. Was an interesting tidbit. And everybody has said you're supposed to ask all of your questions at the agenda briefings, so that you're just basically voting. But there's no new information introduced. And so what your presentation, because we're voting on it, you will make that at the meeting. But if we were under those rules now, you would have made the presentation about the math today rather than at the full board meeting. And, you know, it's a shift in thinking about making presentations at the agenda briefing, but the public knows we have this meeting and they can watch, so we're not denying them. Actually, a lot of people talked about more transparency because they got more information and they were prepared by the time we had the board meeting, and they could send us all those emails that they wanted to send us between the agenda briefing and the board meeting to let us know what they thought. So this is the time for the questions, this is the time for the information. Now, for curriculum committee, we have a...
Is there any question about that? I think we have a question.
I just had a brief comment, because
Okay.
I had asked another commissioner in another county, because I mean, this was a long time ago, so there's nothing to do with this, but basically, the presentations are what take a lot of time. I know we ask a lot of questions, but his comment was the presentations take a lot of time. I don't know if we want to shift the way we do it, and this is just a suggestion for the ad hoc committee, maybe looking into doing presentations this meeting, and then in our regular board meeting, we can just vote right through. I mean,
Yep.
It'd be up to the majority of the board.
Ms. Barnhart?
Just for clarity, if that was the shift, would we just, during the board meeting, we would say, public, for those interested in the information, please reference our agenda review on this date? So we would say that so people could still get that information. Was that the intent, I guess?
I think so, because they're all on YouTube, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
right, so I mean,
And we notice them, right?
whether it's this meeting or another meeting, it's public, so they have an opportunity.
We
Ms.
notice
Graybill?
this meeting, the same as
Yeah,
we do the board meeting.
I also have talked with several of the commissioners about how they run their meetings, and they have a public hearing section at their meetings on specific agenda items if people ask, if board members want to do that, or if it's required by law. So they also do that. Just wanted to throw that out if we're talking about meetings.
And let me make a comment on that I found surprising, but I saw it because I had watched their board meeting before I started calling county commissioners. And what Mr. Rivenbark does is he allots 15 minutes for those who want to speak from the audience who want to speak for something, and 15 who want to speak against it. And he has those people decide who gets to speak and how much time they get. It's very interesting, but that's how they do their public hearings, which was, you know, phenomenal thought.
But that's how they do their public hearings for land development, permits, and planning, because that's required by law. But when you're doing budget public hearings, bond public hearings, or specific agenda item public hearings, the board gets to set their own, the commissioners set their own procedures for that. So there's a difference between required by law and not required by law.
Okay. Well, I look forward to even more discussion. Yes?
I just have to throw this in, I apologize.
Go ahead.
No, I don't apologize, I gotta throw it in.
Go ahead.
You were talking about math. What would you say are the average number of individuals who speak when we have our hour? Lately,
25 right
25? Okay. We have, so 25 speakers. How many of those would you say are parents? You don't have to answer, I'm just making, I'm asking questions to see some of you think. So, as I told her, she hadn't shared this, I say we easily, and there's probably more, 50 people who come to the same meeting every single time. That's their right, absolutely, and I support that right. But if you take 50 people, and some aren't even parents, and we have over 25,000 students, how many exactly, Dr. Faust, right now?
How many exactly? Including pre-K, it'll be 26.
Okay, so give or take 26,000. So that's 52,000 potential parents. Am I correct? So I want you to divide,
Maybe double if it's.
I want you to divide 50 by 52,000 and tell me what percent of 1% comes every single time.
It's less than one.
And so what my
100.
question, the reason I bring this up, I apologize, where are all the other parents and or community that have a vested or have had a vested interest in our educational arena? I don't care what party or what religion. Where's everybody? Think about that and divide it, please. Divide 50. Take 100. Divide it by 52,000. and see who we're listening to. Thank
Good
you.
question.
If
Good
you do
question.
it with 60 people attending, because I did the math, it's 1/100th of 1%. That's the representation we're getting by the speakers who come to the call to audience. Well, it's .0012 if you go at 60, and that is 1/100th of 1% of the representation if we just had 2 parents for every student.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into this. A lot of good information coming
So are
around.
we leaving 5 minutes for ad hoc committee?
We have 5 minutes for ad hoc. The curriculum does or does not need it?
We do.
So you need
We
it.
have an event. Mark your calendars, August 16th. There will be 3 sessions at 3 different schools. And we will be rolling out the 4 C's. Coffee. Why don't you take it from here? I have notes. Okay, okay, well, curriculum, conversation, collaboration,
And
Coffee.
and coffee. And here's the cool thing, though. We are going to have a prize for the school that gets the most people there, and they're going to get a lunch at their school for their teachers. So, for example, Josie's school, if she turns out the most people at any one of these 3 events collectively, then her school would have this lunch at the school for their teachers. So that's what we're up to get the curriculum. Well,
And we're doing it by percentage.
yeah.
So I think it's important and,
School population.
yes, exactly. And what we're doing is, this is something that the board has been saying and we have been saying at the district level, is transparency. So this is a time for parents to actually come and see the curriculums that we have in the schools, to actually ask the questions from the district personnel that will be there. We want to make sure parents realize that we are not hiding anything, we are opening it up, and we want to partner with them. So this will not just be curriculum, it will also be Zello. Mr. Anderson and his team will have a way for parents to ask questions about transportation, what's the other thing I'm looking for?
Parent Academy.
Child nutrition, and I think Ms. Varnum will have information available for the Parent Academy, because you have to think about, this is really under the umbrella of the Parent Academy. So this is what we're really starting, is making sure that our parents feel connected with this. So we're excited about it, and we'll have some other things there, but this is a time for parents to come and kind of open the doors of the schoolhouse and get the questions that they need answered.
Ms. Graybill?
Are these replacing the curriculum nights at the schools, or these are in addition to? Okay.
This is a good question. This is in addition to. This is at the district level, so these will be district employees. And it's a way for parents to actually be able to support their teachers, because the school who has the highest percentage, their teachers will actually receive a lunch.
Okay, so this is actually the beginning of the Parent Academy, like the debut of that?
Dr. Walker, Ms. Walker?
Too. Can I just get, would it be possible to get that either on a calendar invite, just so board members might maybe, I don't mean to make more work for it. But I just would love to just be able to put it in my calendar if that's okay. And then if we want to just drop by, is that all right for us to do?
Yeah.
On Thursday, to
Oh,
you
wasn't the board
guys.
memo?
Yeah, it's going to go in this Thursday memo.
So
this
all the dates
Thursday.
and times are in that? Okay.
Everything will be in there, yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'll check that out.
I just have a question. I know with, I think, Ms. Walker, you're on that committee as the liaison, but with the potential expansion over by Laney, is there any more movement on that, about sidewalks in progress with that? I don't know if there was.
So not for the one that's going, it's, like I say, that's going to be done. Parks and Gardens Rep Tara Duckworth told me the last time we spoke that it's in the budget, it's paid for already, or it's funded already, and it's in the works for this year. I think they're waiting for DOT clearance on it. But there was some expansion of the sidewalk in front of Trask. I think one of the parents, I know one of the parents sent me a picture of it. So I don't know if Eddie had anything to do with that, or whether that's Parks and Gardens. It looks like it's on school property. So there's additional sidewalk that now extends from the crossover, and it cuts right in front of Trask, and it connects to the Laney sidewalk. So If anybody wants to look, it's brand new. I think it's really cool. But I don't think those are they're the same. So yeah, we're supposed to have another Parks and Gardens meeting this month, and I will get an update for you guys. Yes, Eddie? Go ahead, sorry. With the sidewalks.
Now, that was part of the traffic and improvements project that we're just wrapping up.
Okay, yeah, they're really nice.
So I'm going to allow, or suggest we allow 5 minutes for the curriculum committee to discuss at the committee reports. And I just heard finance.
Yeah, I want to schedule a finance committee meeting, and we'll give you a long lead time. I'm thinking maybe October. And I mentioned it yesterday, but in talking with the county commissioners, you know, you don't just have one conversation. And they are meeting now, talking about what they see is the lack of ESSER money and how they're going to deal with their budget, the shrinking budget. So I want to do finance now and talk about what we're looking at for next year and start talking about how to plan. Everyone's talking about, oh, you need to ask for more money, you need to get more money, you need to spend more money, and yet we're going to need to be rolling back in the other direction. And so we might as well start the conversation. And I think, is October okay? I mean, schools will have started, we'll be well into it, it's not too close to Christmas. So anyway, that's what I was thinking.
So a couple things. So we've already shrunk ours from ESSER. But we can, hopefully, if the budget has been approved at the state, we will have conversational pieces versus a wish list.
Surely they'll have done it by October, surely.
Maybe. We've gone
This
later.
is going to be unprecedented in terms of how long the GA goes this time. I really think so.
Oh, no, I'm
and I
hopeful,
wouldn't
I'm
wanna do
hopeful, I'm
it.
sure, Ms. Sutton.
Yeah, we've had years where we didn't actually have a budget, they just did resolutions or amendments for salaries, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Y'all look at October, and then we'll watch the GA's budget approval soon. And we would not want to do that before it. That would be putting the cart before the horse, but after the budget's approved. But I didn't want to come too close to school starting, and I wanted to stay away from holidays, and so I thought October might be a good time, because we'll definitely have 1 or 2 county commissioners with us to tell us what they see the forecast to be. And if we wait until November, that's an election year for the county. No, we're good. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
So that meeting would just be planning, like we would start talking about the budget calendar and just some,
Yeah.
is that what we're
Yeah,
thinking that
and
meeting would look like?
We would invite your counterpart from the county to come and the county commissioners are going to tell us where they're feeling.
Okay.
They told me where they're feeling, but I want them to tell everyone so that they know, so that we prepare. I'm a long-range planner.
Okay.
Big time.
All right.
So is that,
All right.
I have 3 5-minute committee reports, is that what I'm
That's what
hearing?
we got so far. Yep. Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
And is there anything else that any other committees would like to speak?
This is about the can you remind me who's on finance committee? I don't even know if I am. I think it was Mr. McManus,
It's
Ms.
you.
Bradford, and I can't remember. I don't have it on.
I
It
think
might
it's
be
you.
me.
I think it is you.
I'm going to look at see if I can
I'm pretty
find
sure it
it.
is you.
I think it is the three of
Through,
us.
yeah.
You are now, I'm not you. You're-
Yeah, it's on our website too, but I'm pretty sure. It's on our website, but I'm pretty sure you are.
Because we hadn't had a discussion yet, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure.
I understand when you get older.
Yeah,
Well, once you
and
get that
know about
doctorate, that's
that.
what happened. Is there anybody else who would
That's why you're
like
my
to give a
best
committee report so we can keep this moving?
Mr. Chair, can I tell you who's on the finance committee?
Yes, please.
Please share that with us.
Ms. Bradford, Mr. McManus, and Ms. Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we
Sorry,
go.
just making sure I know what I'm supposed to do.
So you are
Okay.
expected to be there.
Mr.
All
Chair,
right.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to stop the momentum. I have a question. When is calendar committee starting? Is September typically the first meeting?
Good point.
for that?
I actually will be trying to grab you and Mr. McManus
Okay.
after this meeting so we can get some things in place and make sure we run it
Okay.
in a very transparent way. And
Okay.
okay.
So we don't need a committee
Okay.
report for that, but I just want to.
Thank you, thank you. We'll carry on. So we have 3 committee reports there. Then we could move on to correspondence, announcements. Closed session is where we will have that. Probably need an hour for that, I would think. So let's go ahead and figure, and then adjournment. So, Ms. Craybill, drum roll.
With all of that, but we're all set
Yes.
1 hour.
1 hour.
1 hour, okay, so that takes us to 8:40 with no breaks.
Woo-hoo!
Woohoo!
Look at that.
We have to have a break.
All right, so 8:42.
So probably 9 o'clock.
Thank you. Somebody, I'm trying. 9 o'clock.
3
Yes.
hours.
9 o'clock. Okay, very good.
All right.
All right, we are going to carry on. Mr. McManus.
I thought you were closing, I was going to say.
Oh, no. We have a little bit
closed
more.
session.
I was
Closed
hoping
session.
you were closing.
All right, our next, thank you, board members and central office staff for that diligent work, and I think that's a good place to be. We are going to carry on with our closed session, which will be our next, and I don't see it up there, so I'm going to just go ahead and read it. Board, let's see, I call for a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318, 11A, 1, 3, and 6, to consider personnel matters and maintain confidentiality of personnel records under NCGS 115C-319 through 321, to prevent the disclosure of student records rendered confidential under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, 20 U.S.C. 1232G, and to consult with attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a motion second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are in closed session. At this point, if anybody needs to stop on the way. Oh, I got a name for you, too. We are back. We are in open session. Welcome back. We have three pieces of information or three things left on our agenda to do. The first one is our personnel report. I'm trying to find my overall agenda. There it is. There it is. So we have heard the personnel report. At this point, I would entertain a motion to accept the personnel report.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the personnel report.
We have a first. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Mason. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Carries 7-0. Our second to last thing is consideration of a public hearing regarding book appeal hearing. Who would like to start that? Ms. Crable, would you start for us, please?
Yes, thank you for, Mr. Chair, for putting this on the board for the meeting for discussion. First of all, I just want to make sure that everybody is clear on what I am proposing. That I am not proposing that we make the appeal hearing on the book stamped, not have the meeting, not make it closed. This has nothing to do with the appeal itself. My proposal was using policy 2300, which is board meetings, under letter B, which is type of meetings, and number 3, specialty called meetings, letter D, public hearings. And these public hearings are where individuals from the community have the opportunity to speak on one specific topic. And the topic that I was proposing was to talk about limiting books in the classroom or limiting books in the library. So I'm talking about a very specific public hearing that we are entitled to by our policy and by law. We are not required to have those. But this, to me, is one of those, and it says, public hearings or forums are official proceedings during which members of the public are given an opportunity to be heard. And given that this board, all of us believe that we want to hear from parents every time that we can and as often as we can. We've put a lot of different things in place, call of the audience, town halls, other public participation meetings. This public hearing that I'm asking for is just giving people the opportunity to talk about books in the school, a very specific topic. They will not be weighing in on the proceedings of the appeal or any of that kind of stuff because they won't have any of the evidence. That will come later. So that is what I wanted us to talk about.
Would you like to make a motion so that we can
Yes,
move
I'd like to
forward?
make a motion that we add a public hearing comment, a public hearing component to either separately or directly before the appeal hearing that is open to the public.
Okay, is there a second?
There's a second. I second
Ms.
it.
Walker will second that. Discussion, we've heard from a person speaking forward. Would anybody like to speak? Ms. Mason?
I don't know if this is a question. I have a question, though. We had talked, and I know, Ms. Walker, you had reached out, that there was, on my calendar, a public participation meeting scheduled for the 15th. Has that been set in stone? Is that something that is actually occurring?
That is going to occur. I have not had an opportunity to sit down with, and I'm hopefully going to say his name right, Mr. Corella? So, yeah. He comes on the 1st, so I will be sitting down with him, or not sitting down with him, probably calling him via the phone. Mr. Smith and I had some, what I thought was some outstanding ideas for that meeting, but with the turnover, so I will be talking with him, and we'll be able to, share that with everybody as soon as he says, yes, we can go with every piece of it. I think it's going to be outstanding, an opportunity for our staff as a whole to work together. And as Ms. Crable has brought up 100 times, and I thank you for doing that, which is, no, it's good. It's going to be focused on the strategic plan, which is, I think, really, really good. I mean, so, but anyway, yes, but I have not, he's not coming on board until the 1st. So I've actually reached out to him. He hasn't answered me, and I found out why. So.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Walker.
If Ms. Mason's done.
I'm sorry?
Is she done? I'm sorry. Are you finished? Okay. So I guess that was the suggestion, to maybe use the town hall as the opportunity for the public hearing. I think that's what I was hearing from Ms. Mason, perhaps. Was that what? I'm sorry, I don't mean to directly ask, but.
Well, I guess my question is, the point that I would say is we have called audience, so people have an opportunity for an hour next week, as well as if we are having this, but if it's focused, that's a different story, obviously. The amount of opportunities that parents do have right now as it stands to be able to, or other individuals, to be able to come and voice their thoughts on it. That was really kind of the point that I
Okay,
was.
so just to follow up with that, this is a discretionary hearing. We didn't have to hear it, but we do, and now it is a public hearing, and it is on a topic I think that is very important to the public, as we have seen in our emails, amongst other things. And so I think it is important as a public entity, as a publicly elected body, we do have an obligation to the public to listen. And I think that if we give them the opportunity, I think that's going to be very helpful in the community. But I think because we've never had a hearing like this before on such a topic, I think it's appropriate. So that's one of the reasons I did second it. And we haven't set the date. So I guess if we were going to do something like that, it has to be once the date is set. So, I mean, the week of the 14th, we were supposed to. I don't know what time we do that, but.
Okay. Mr. McManus?
Thank you. I agree. We need to involve our community and listen to what they say, and hopefully the masses will speak, because the idea of prohibiting or banning, to me, when you look them both up, they are synonymous. They just spelled differently. A book, are we talking about, which I would still disagree with, but a school or an AP level class, which those are the individuals I've said earlier, must read everything, whether they agree or disagree, because they're probably going to be in positions of leadership where they need to understand how other people feel and disagree as well as agree. But the public has a tremendously vested interest in this. Dice it and cut it what you want. We are talking about banning a book because we have individuals who don't like the book. That's not a good reason to ban a book. So briefly, parents make that decision. Correct me if I'm wrong. Our policy says if you do not like a book, we will issue you, the teacher, a different book to read. Was that requested? Was that not honored? We've met with every level of the grievance committee, most librarians, all the way to the top. And they all said it does not need to be banned. Once we ban a book, we have an audience that comes who has a list of books to be banned, which we have not addressed. This has been addressed, but not that list. That will be next. Are you going to ban any of those? Because if you ban this, you've begun, and you're going to be asked repeatedly to ban a book. One person, am I correct? It's one person who has requested this book to be banned or prohibited. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McManus. And just a reminder, the board, we're discussing the hearing, not the book or the book challenge at this point. Ms. Barnhart?
Yeah, it sounds like the decision has already been set, which I just want to, for the record, has not been. The idea to hear both sides of the argument was the whole point of the hearing. So I just want to reiterate that and want to, for the public and the press that is present, just to acknowledge that has not happened. So it seems like after my colleague's speech that the point of this hearing is to hear how we don't want to ban books. And so I'd like some clarity. Are we going to give equal opportunity for both to hear having leveled books in our library and having accountability to what's being taught, as well as not banning books, as you're saying? Or is the idea of this hearing just to talk about how we shouldn't ban books? Can I get some clarity on that?
Okay, so my clarity, thank you,
Thank
that
you.
it's a good point.
Cool.
So Mr. Waterboard, do I
Yes,
have?
ma'am.
Okay.
You got it. You're good.
So here in the language, it says the purpose of a public hearing is to gather information and hear opinions from the community. Just like we're not telling students how to think about the book, we are not telling which community members to come. So if I want to ban books, you don't, then we both should come and give our opinion. That is this, I'm just saying the public needs the opportunity. Generally, board members will respond only to seek clarification. At the appointed time, the chairperson will go through all the rules, will set up the time parameters. It's completely up to us how we set it out, but it's open to everyone that has an opinion on books in our schools and the accessibility of books in our schools. So to Mr. McManus's point, I just did a quick little Google, ban versus removal, because they are spelled differently, so I looked them up. What is the difference between a book being challenged or banned? A banning is the removal of those materials. Challenges do not simply involve a person expressing the point of view, rather an attempt to remove materials from the curriculum or library, therefore restricting the access to others. And all I want is any community member that wants to talk to us about that specific thing, limiting access to their children's right to read, and the teacher's right and responsibility to present challenging and authentic material that meets DPI standards, that they should have that opportunity. And when we talked about, when Ms. Mason brought up her district committee, one of the things that she had mentioned to us was that she wanted a heavier load with parents and community members, if I remember correctly. And so this is an opportunity to get those parents that we might be looking for to be on that kind of committee a chance to come and talk before us, not to they're not commenting on the book that we're talking about. They're commenting on the process and their parental rights to let their kids read what they say they can read and not what this board says that they think is appropriate and can read. That's all I'm asking. And there may be some students who show up at this meeting to say, I don't like you limiting what I read, or thank you for doing that because I felt uncomfortable. And you could have both. You have parents that are like that, and other parents should not be asking the teacher to see their presentations of other students, this is hypothetical. And other students shouldn't be, bullying or harassing students that don't want to read the book. And so if they want to come and talk to us, I think it's incumbent upon us. All of us ran on that. All of us believe it. We talk about it at Call to the Audience every single time about limiting time. But we all want we want everybody to be heard. This is just another formal opportunity with procedures. The chair presides over how it runs, and if it looks like it's getting a little bit whatever, then chair says, we're done. That's all that I'm asking.
All right, Ms. Bradford?
There's a perception in the media and in the public that the hearing for the book Stamped is a broader hearing for banning books in the school district and all of the school libraries. And that's incorrect. And so I would move to table that motion to after the Gates hearing so that the public keeps the two things separate, because we've had a call to audience. Well, let's back up. We had Ms. Mason's motion for information, and we had a lot of misconception then about what we were doing and how we were forming this committee and all these things that were going to happen. But we had a lot of discussion with the public. They came and they talked, and ever since then they've come and they've talked and they've sent us emails. Then last month at our board meeting, we had a number of the 23 people that signed up to speak on this issue. So to add more on top of our meeting next Tuesday, where they have the opportunity to sign up all week long now, and last month we didn't have a full roster. Not everybody filled the empty slots that we had, so we don't know if they'll fill it this time, but they have that opportunity to do it. We have a public forum on the 15th. It's possible somebody will raise their hand and ask a question about this, but to keep the things separate, because you're saying, and rightly so, that we should have a public forum about book appeals and book banning, but we don't want to confuse it with what's happening with the Gates appeal, which is separate. And so I would make the motion to, if it's the will of this board, the majority of this board, to have this public input meeting, that it be sometime after that date that we don't have yet for the Gates appeal.
We have a motion. First off, do we have a second?
We have a motion already on the table.
We do.
And a
But
second.
I
We have a
motion to table.
it.
Well,
That supersedes, actually.
well,
So,
I
but is there a
mean, are
second?
we finished discussion now? Or are we going to do another
We have to see if we get a
discussion?
second on the table, and then we can
Got
go on
you.
from there. Just to be. Is there a second to table the motion? Hearing none, we will carry on. Ms. Walker?
So I just want to say, gosh, I already lost my train of thought, but this is an unprecedented thing we're doing, okay? This is not something we regularly do. So this is an unusual circumstance, and whether or not, whatever people feel about what the outcome could be, it is important to underline the fact that we are doing something new. And so people are however they feel about it, they're upset about it. And the public should be able to weigh on something like this. I take Mr. McManus's point about one parent bringing this appeal. The board didn't have to hear it, but the board did decide to hear it. So with that comes the public's opinion, and we're going to get it no matter when it comes. I would prefer to go ahead and do it before the hearing. I feel like it's the appropriate thing to do. And I hope that we do, because believe it or not, this is a template for things to come, because this is an unprecedented thing. So that is why I still support the fact that we should have a public portion of our hearing, separate from the hearing itself, but actually have a portion to let the public come and just talk to us.
Okay, and I think everybody's spoken except for me, so I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity. I've been really thinking a lot about this because I was one of the first people that really, and I know my other board members, I'll give you all credit for that too, but I was the one that actually brought up the whole idea of town halls and hearing from folks and wanting to hear from folks. I do disagree, and I think we've had several situations where we have had unprecedented things. We've had 2 censure votes, where in both of those censure votes, we did not have a public forum before. I'm sure we could have had one. Additionally, we had a trespass discussion that the former board left for us, and I was part of the former board too. But again, no public input was needed other than what we received. To this point, we have received, we've given multiple opportunities. We've heard for 2 months a good portion of our discussion. And if you think about it, just a few months ago, when the idea of a book committee was brought up, that was also another opportunity for to hear a lot from folks. And I think it is important. I looked at my emails today, and I had a lot of emails. We have a call audience for an hour. I would rather, instead of saying, I would be much more in favor of, instead of having a special meeting right before another, what is probably going to be a rather contentious meeting, it may not be, I'm hoping it won't be, but I would rather just looking at our August 1st meeting and extending that call to audience time and letting them speak then, and not having a special thing, okay, come out if it's in the morning or whatever else. But since that's not, up, I don't, I would rather, like I say, we've had situations before when we've had a couple extra folks that needed to speak, and we've taken votes to extend the call to audience. I would have no problem in doing that for next Tuesday. But I'm not too sure that we need to have another, because then we are setting, my thought is every time we have some contentious topic, we're going to have another, we should have another call to audience time, and I think that, the ones we have already kind of suffice and give everybody an opportunity. So, since I just want to get my 2 cents in, that was my 2 cents. Anyone else like to speak on this topic before we vote? Ms. Craybill.
So before we vote, this is a rhetorical question throwing out. It's not to anyone. It's for us to reflect on. What are we afraid of for having people come and talk to us and give us their opinion? But that's rhetorical, not meant for anybody. I would not be opposed to extending call to the audience, but we're going to have to be specific on how long that's going to be. The public hearing, letter D, describes pretty specifically that we get to say what that looks like. And so if this board feels like that if we want to allow anybody who signs up, give them the opportunity to talk, our meeting is not going to end at 9 o'clock.
Right.
And so I'm willing to change from a public hearing to a call to the audience but it has to me, I feel very strongly, it has to occur before we have the appeal hearing. And to Ms. Bradford's point, we don't want to confuse people. The board chair can work with our attorney, can work with our Dr. Faust, can work with our communications people, and say the words very clearly. This is the difference. This is what this means. This is what we are going to do. Because our community is not done. If we just explain out loud, and even us are confused when I was bringing up public hearing. Because public hearing is a special meeting, and we happen to be having an appeal meeting that will be happening in the public. So all we have to do is explain that, to people. So I think that they can get that, to us. And we don't have to go off on, quasi-judicial stuff, because we're not involving the public in that part. And I'm not suggesting that we do. That's our decision. But I just want us to make sure we have all said it so many times over the past 2 years. You guys, when you were running for office, those of us that have already been in office, we want to hear from the parents. The parents have the right to choose for their child. And so we I want to hear from them on if they think that this is taking away a parental right. That's all.
Mrs. Bradford?
So, if this is the will of the board, who said, will you, if someone comes up to speak and they want to talk about the Gates hearing, will you tell them, no, you can't talk on that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? You're saying it's going to be different.
We're not here to talk about that.
You know, it opens up a real can of worms.
But he's in charge and he can direct that and say, this is not what we're here to talk about.
Or do we have a meeting to talk about what that's going to look like? I mean, how many meetings are we going to have on this? Because we've had called audience, we have the thing coming up, we have next Tuesday night. So it's just, how much time do you want to put to this one thing is one of my concerns.
Ms. Mason?
I actually would not be opposed to extending call to audience. I don't think we need another meeting, but I would not be opposed to extending call to audience to include more individuals to be able to voice their opinions.
Which we can make an amendment. Mr. McManus?
Thank you. The issue to me with the call to audience is that we have so much before we go through a timely procedure. And so you're actually expecting people to come and to sit through a maze of what we do rather than a meeting where it's all about one specific topic. And if I understand correctly, if we, regardless of whether we have a meeting or not, once the hearing for the book is held, the board will vote to support or not. So it will be decided.
Sir.
All the more reason, since this affects every single student and staff member in our system and parent, that they have a chance to voice their opinion. This is a major decision, absolutely major. Will change the destiny of our schools.
So the motion in front of us is from Ms. Craybill to, thank you, Mr. McManus, from Ms. Craybill to have a special called hearing before the.
It's not a special called hearing, it's a public hearing, a
yes.
public forum.
Yeah. So would you please restate your?
Yes,
I did not
and
write it down.
before I restate, if it will be easier to get this approved, I will change it to call to the audience extension rather than public hearing 3, letter B, letter D. You know, I can switch to call to the audience because that is part of our meetings. But our meetings also say, our policy says, no more than an hour. So then we would have to talk about waiving the policy, and it's just another layer that we have to add on. So you guys tell me what you think.
You can't take it back, we still have to have.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I can take it back. I can rescind
amend.
my motion, and I can change my motion, and I'm willing to do that to be a team player if the end purpose is to get more people the opportunity to talk.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, so would you like to rescind your motion?
I see Mr. Vogel is doing some
Yes, sir.
eyeing, so
Yes, sir.
he's making eye contact, so.
Yep. Would you like to rescind your motion and, or amend, is it amending at this point?
She's amending her own motion.
I haven't amended it yet. I said I'm willing. I'm just looking
Okay.
for some feedback.
Mr.
I will amend if people are going to vote for it. I'm not going to amend if you guys are going to vote down no, not extending call of the audience, because that would be dumb.
And I think you'd have to specify, what do you say, another extra half hour? Would that be fair?
Why aren't we doing the town hall?
Is a half an hour enough?
Well,
Maybe. Up to an hour. Yeah. Because I would assume that we would add an hour to the, we would have an hour of public hearing. And we don't have to use it. If we don't get all those people showing up, we just move on.
Okay.
But I think people need to feel comfortable that they're not going to have to sign up for a lottery, hope they get in place, because there are other people that want to talk about other things. So we could be limiting some of the people that really want to talk about book selection for their child.
Okay.
Can I ask Ms. Crable a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did we not consider the town hall? It's on the 15th. I mean, that's a perfect opportunity to do this.
I don't mind doing it at the town hall either, but Mr.
and it's-
Wimmerbohr already has a plan for that. And I don't want to get, and despite what people might think, I don't want to get up all in your business on that.
I appreciate
Because I agree with the town hall. talking about the strategic plan, because that's what we're all about. You know, and school's getting ready to start, so we should, I mean, I love that idea.
Thank you.
And so I don't want to jump in on that,
Thank you.
but this is something that's happening right here, right now. We have had these kind of hearings when we talk about redistricting, where parents get to come. We have 3 nights of talking about where my kid's going to go and how it's going to affect me. And the previous boards have sat through that. So it's not really that unprecedented to have a public hearing to hear about a specific topic.
Okay.
Okay. So
I'm still waiting for your,
I'm going to go ahead and leave my motion that we have a public hearing component prior to the appeal hearing for the book that is open to the public.
okay. And you had the first, you had the second. Ms. Bowie.
Did I
would
say
you-
it right? Okay,
Yeah,
on what you
Ms.
seconded me on, so I can make sure I
Bowie.
repeated it right.
Would you please call the roll?
Ms. Mason,
No.
Ms. Barnhart,
No.
Ms. Craybill,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Bradford,
No.
and Mr. Wildebohr.
No, so it's defeated. Defeated.
Mr.
4-3.
Wildebohr, I make a motion to allow for an extension of the call to audience in the August 1st meeting by an additional 30 minutes to allow more time for people to speak on whatever topic they choose, but in particular, this one of book removal if possible.
I'll second that. Let's start all over again.
Mr. Chair.
So we had first from Ms. Barnhart, second from me. Is there discussion, Ms. Walker?
Sure, okay, we're in discussion phase, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Half an hour at a call to audience doesn't seem adequate. I'm gonna be honest, I don't feel like it's a time for any kind of like, you know, town halls. We've had a few of them so far, we've had interaction. So far, I think we've had some good town halls. And so, I mean, do I always like what people have to say? No, but I'm here to listen to it. They have a right to say it. And so I don't know that a call to audience time 2 minutes for half hour is going to be enough for this topic. And so I don't feel like that's adequate. I know it's kind of checking a box for us to let people speak a little bit longer on it. And we're trying to incorporate it into our meeting, but like this is such an important thing. And I don't know why people don't understand how important this is. So I don't think it's a good idea to just half hour it.
Okay, Ms. Craybill.
So 30 minutes, are we using the same call to the audience rules? Meaning if we go over 20, then we get only 2 minutes to talk? Or do the people that sign up to, and I'm just throwing out hypotheticals, do the people that sign up and truthfully write in the comment section, I'm talking about books, do they still sign up online and go through the lottery system? Are we going to keep it at 20 and then you have to show up here and sign your name? I'm uncomfortable voting on that unless we have some pretty clear criteria, so we don't have people, lining up, at 4:30 or, pushing and shoving to get in, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that want to weigh in on this topic.
Ms. Barnhart, would you like to speak to that?
I would envision allowing the same lottery system that we have been trying to let more people speak. Mr. McManus has said on multiple occasions that we hear from the same individuals constantly month after month. I'd have to imagine that many of those same individuals would come to an intentionally called meeting specifically to talk about books. Allowing the opportunity for additional 30 minutes would roughly be another 15 people to voice their opinion of concern or approval of the idea of selecting different material for our students. With that being said, part of the procedure, I would imagine, would be allowing 35 people to sign up via the lottery and allowing those 5 slots that we have for in-person assignments, and that's what I would envision.
Ma'am, Ms. Barnhart? Bradford?
Yeah.
Sorry, get it right.
Ms. Barnhart, would you consider amending in that if Ms. Craybill and Mr. McManus propose that we have a specific amount of time for this specific topic, that just allowing it to open up to X number of people more doesn't really get what they're asking for. And my concern is we'll have 20 or 30 more people talk on some other subject that they talk on every single time we come together, and shut out the people that might want to talk about the book. So is there a way,
My concern as well.
procedure to let this new 30-minute thing just be
I think that's
for
good.
specifically addressing that topic? And if Ms. Crable said that it was going to be a separation of book materials in the schools for all students and district versus the hearing, then you as the chair would say, you're out of order, you're not talking to the subject that this 30 minutes is allowed for. I'm just throwing out there for discussion if you'd consider it.
Can I ask before we get there, is that a possibility? Could we do two separate avenues for that?
If that's the will of the board, we certainly can open up two separate forms and take in applicants from each form and monitor those.
Thank you.
So would that mean that we mix them all in, or that the people that want to come and talk about the books get pushed to the end, or, you know, I think we should give, because we're going to have to give you guys some direction on, you know, what we like, so you're not getting like, oh, we didn't really want that, you know.
Yeah.
And not that they would, but.
I would say, and my own personal opinion, which is worth what it's worth, is that the first hour would be anybody that wants to sign up for any topic. We're not going to start saying, well, you can't. Again, I'm not speaking for everybody. And then the last half hour would only be, is that acceptable?
And it's still going to be early. It's only going to be 5:35 is when we're slated to start, you know, and then 6:35 is when we're slated to be done. So we really would be done in.
Okay, Ms. Mason?
I think that was my question, because I do know that in the past, for call to audience, a lot of individuals who sign up for call to audience, they're talking about this topic. And so how are we going to delineate that? Are we going to tell the people who are signing up generally for call to audience, well, you can't talk about the books for this, you have to talk about them here, or is it, like, how are we going to delineate that?
If it's the will of the board, I believe that we should open the call to audience, how we've been having it, to any topic, not limiting any topic, because we want to hear from everything. Because while sometimes we read headlines that we're only concerned about specific things, we operate everything that's going on, and we are multitasking on a lot of different facets. This just happens to make the news. So I would suggest having the hour-long call to audience and opening it to every single topic, because we have a lot of things that are going on in our district that we care about and that we are working on as a team. And in addition, having a specifically 30-minute separate solely for books. So if you make, and Chris said, Ms. Clegg said that if they have 2 time slots, they could sign up for the lottery, not get it for the hour-long thing, but specifically know they're talking about books and potentially still sign up and have their opinion heard.
Ms. Walker?
So we're going to give 30 minutes specifically for books on this big topic. I think we may regret that, because I think it deserves longer than that. And if we're going to start restricting, this just feels like control, and I mean, being on the board, this is my 3rd year, you can't control certain things. I mean, people want to talk about what they want to talk about, and I imagine, I mean, if we're going to just do a little half hour just for that, I don't think it's going to be adequate. I mean, I am just concerned that this is just going to bubble over like I've seen many times up here. So, well, I don't have any else to say. I just don't agree with it.
Okay.
And I'm just asking a clarification question. Is your motion that someone could come to the regular call to audience, sign up and talk about this exact topic, and then also sign up for the same topic in specifically that? Or would there be some separation saying, you know, you get one slot, but you don't get them both? You see what I'm saying? There's potential for abuse here, and I'm trying to head it off so that the same 20 people who talk every meeting don't talk at both of these. I'm just trying to head that off.
Go ahead.
Thank you for bringing up that great point, Ms. Bradford. I would like to see some delineation. However, with the lottery system, it's my understanding that it's a randomizer system. So the first hour slot and the 30-minute slot would still follow a similar process, and please correct me if I'm wrong, for sign-up. So if we had 500 people sign up for the 30-minute slot, it would be a randomizer for who gets chosen, similar to how we are doing the call to audience currently. That being said, it's the will of the board, and if we don't agree to have this, that is fine.
All right. Any other comments? If not, we have a first and second. The motion in front of us, again, is to have an additional half hour set aside only for discussion of books. Ms. Bowie, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Barnhart.
Yes.
Ms. Craybill.
Yes.
Ms. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. McManus.
Yes.
Ms. Bradford.
Yes.
Mr. Wildebohr.
Yes.
And Ms. Mason.
Yes.
That passes 7-0, so we will put that in place. Thank you. Put that right on your shoulders. I appreciate you taking that on. I think our next order of business at this point is to adjourn. So I have a motion. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, board members and central office staff. Thank you for the pens at the last second. I'm like, it's not working.